Hello, Denimheads. Welcome to the Sons of Selvedge Podcast. This is a podcast where a group of friends get together to talk about heritage clothing, such as denim, boots, jackets, etc. And I'm pleased to introduce a new guest on the show today, Fahmy from Kerbside Co. I actually happened to meet Fahmy recently on a trip to Singapore. I was exploring the town and trying to check out cool shops and cool brands, and a friend on Instagram that goes by Denim Wings, they recommended that I check out your shop. And so I happened to stumble into your amazing place and had a lovely experience hanging out with you, Fahmy, and your team. So yeah, maybe over to you if you would like to introduce yourself and introduce the brand.
Sure thing. I'm Fahmy Ismail. I run Kerbside Co. With my partners. Thank you to David for coming into the store the other day. I hope you had a good experience here. Kerbside Co is essentially, I would say, an American casual brand. We can talk more about it as we go on.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, and I think I will say of every place I went to in Singapore, because I was there for like 3 or 4 days, your shop was the best. Like I had the most from like when you kind of first walk up and you see the glass window and you're like going up the steps and like your beautiful vintage pieces, your artwork, like your menswear, your women's wear, just instantly when you walk in the shop, it's something really special. And I think what's maybe worth highlighting first and foremost is that you're a house brand, right? So you have your own brand, you design it, you make it. Everything's special and really can only be found through you and any potential stockists that carry you. So, it's not just another shop that's selling the brands we all know and love from, Japan and America, but rather you're building something completely unique and special to Curbside. And I think that's like really worth highlighting at the beginning of the conversation because it's kind of a through line through everything you do. It's special and it's unique and it's not the same as everyone else. So I think that's really cool to state up front. But maybe kind of going back in time, how did you first get interested in sort of Americana and vintage clothing and heritage clothing? Like, where did it all start?
I suppose it's probably the exposure to films, American films, popular culture. I mean, when I was a lot younger, I watched a lot of American movies, especially John Hughes films.
Mm.
And then going in the 90s, obviously we have Friends. A bit earlier will be Beverly Hills 90210, all the American soap dramas for kids. And then besides that, I'm very much heavily influenced by British popular culture, especially the music scene. So I used to read a lot of Smash Hits magazine, and flipping through the pages, you'll see the pop stars wearing Levi's 501s, very nice, clean white tees, the shirt with a nice collar roll with studded ends. As I grew up and I have a bit more of adult money, I would say, then I started buying my first Levi's 501s, and it gradually, um, you know, uh, expanded out from there.
And for the 501s, like, was there a particular generation you sought, or was it just what you could get, or
Uh,
like, was there a certain look you wanted?
I think the first 501s I got was, I think in 1989.
Yeah.
It was the first 501s I ever got. I mean, I saved up a pretty penny for it. I think it was just that particular model. It was a one wash model. It's got that slightly furry, fuzzy texture on it. It fits like a glove. I used to see all my heroes, the pop stars, George Michael wearing it on the magazines, and finally when I bought my first pair of Levi's 501s, I got my first pair of Dr. Martens, a crisp white shirt. Uh, wow, I felt like I'm on my way to popular stardom.
Yeah. 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 It's cool. I can kind of see that larger than life sort of influence in your brand, right? Because like all your pieces, they have like that little something extra, that little something special. They're not just kind of like a basic Oxford cloth shirt. It's like how you do the washing on it, or the stitching patterns on your trousers. It's like the pocket details. It's not just your basic pocket details. Everything's got that little bit something extra. And I could see how like pop culture and Hollywood and sort of that almost like larger than life presence you would see in film and magazines and stuff can maybe influence your design.
Yeah, not to mention comics too. So I mean, I used to read a lot of comics. So Archie comics, the preppy collegiate aesthetics that they had in the drawing. So I mean, that um, that kind of spill over into the design element of Kerbside and Co.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, generally I try not to embellish too many things on a piece of garment. So I don't really like uh, overdoing certain things. First
Hmm.
of all, I do not like large emblems on the brand itself. So I like either subtle or almost none. The only thing you can see is probably on the woven label on the on the neck at the
Yeah.
inside. Nothing too, unless it's supposed to be like a like my Sultans of Swing coach jacket. And of course, there's some element of chain stitching there that I need to showcase. Otherwise, I like a very clean outfit. I'll rather somebody who stumbled upon the brand and somebody wearing it and was like, kind of stop. Where's the brand? What are you wearing? Where's the brand
Hmm.
from? Where's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
piece of? So yeah.
And are you trying to take your customers back in time to like the late 80s and 90s style wise, or is it more that you like that time and place, but you want something that's really for now, that's more modern?
Um, I will say I deal a lot with classic element of how the brand direction is. So a lot of classic outfits, like button downs, um, classic denim jackets. Nothing too crazy. Whether it harks back to the a period of time that I enjoy growing up, that period. There's certain elements uh, that I take reference from, but not so much to the point where it gets a bit tacky, or
Yeah.
it's too it gets a bit too overbearing. While I like elements of the past, when it comes to Curbside and Co, especially when it comes to the construction of the garment, I like modern technology. Certain, like, let's say if I construct I design a pair of jeans. The I don't fancy the inseam to be of an overlocking element to it. So I like
Hmm.
felt seam because I think it's a
Yeah.
cleaner construction and it's a lot stronger. Um, but to each his own. If you are really you like the construction, I think there's a method to the madness. Go for it. I just like the classic silhouettes of a classic garment with just modern construction. That's what I always
Yeah.
espouse.
Yeah, and I picked that up too. That like you're not like a reproduction brand. You're not trying to replicate something from the past, but rather you're being inspired by the past to come up with something new, with like your own fingerprint, your own personality. And I think that really shows in the garments that they feel unique to Curbside, and they don't feel like a garment that I'm going to find somewhere else. Um, every and like each piece I saw in your shop is like everything has just that little bit of like your unique fingerprint on it. It's always subtle, always understated, but it was always there. And I could say like, oh yeah, this is a really neat t-shirt. I've never seen one like this before. This is a really cool button down. I've not quite seen one just like this before. So I like the uniqueness of your work.
Yeah, it's a classic fit. Like I mean, there's nothing overly dramatic about it, but
Yeah.
the construction and the fit is strong and clean. So I mean, that's
Yeah.
what I always try to do.
Yeah, and that's true too. I mean, everything was timeless. Like nothing felt like it was from a particular point in history or current. It felt like it's something that you could wear any generation and would still look cool.
Yeah,
Like
I can't do anything trendy too because production lead time is very long. So, but if I do something trendy, like a 1 year production lead time, by the time I could come out with something, it's not. Anyway, I'm not interested to do that anyway for the brand.
yeah, yeah. Well, maybe let's talk about how you started Curbside. So what led you to do your own brand? Were you working with someone else, or were you kind of learning somewhere else, or did you just kind of start from scratch? Like how did you sort of begin to build Curbside?
Oh well, I wasn't from the retail or the fashion scene. I was from television broadcasting in the media
Mm,
industry. So, but what was consistent throughout my life since when I was a teenager, from a kid, from skateboarding to listening to music, it's a very it's there's a commonality there. I just over when I was a teen to the when I was like in my 30s, every decade I just collect a lot of vintage pieces.
Mm.
So especially vintage Levi's 501s. So up to a certain point of time, I had like over 300 pairs of Levi's 501s, just 501s, nothing else. To the point where it got a bit unhealthy. Um,
You can always have more jeans.
no, that's way too much. I sold 95% of it anyway. By
Fair
now.
enough.
So yeah. So when I finally decided to like throw in the towel, like I have television broadcasting, it's run its course. I'm kind of done with it. The hours are a bit long. Um, I decided, hey, why not? I learned fashion, pattern making and the fashion side of things, the retail and all this. Yeah, so I just to have I learned from the industry folks, just to have like a groundwork of
Hmm.
like a frame on how to deal with factories.
Hmm.
So once I'm graduated, I launched the brand in early 2016. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, congratulations on your. I know you just celebrated your 10-year anniversary earlier this year.
thank
I saw a
you.
lot of the beautiful posters around the stores. That's super cool. Congratulations, you've
Yeah, we are
succeeded in
really
10
shocked
years.
about that. Yeah, 10 years, and I think I like to keep the brand fiercely independent. Like the growth has always been organic. We don't we don't like push for very heavy aggressive marketing. I mean, I've always liked if somebody like Kerbside Co garments, it's always by word of mouth or
Mm.
recommendations. Then yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Mm. And maybe that kind of brings me to maybe some questions around sort of the scene in Singapore. So it's a very unique country, a very unique city. It's a very special place. What can you say, if anything, about being curbside and being in Singapore? Is it like an advantage? Is it give you a unique perspective? Like kind of like, how do you feel being kind of like the specialist of Americana and having your own kind of brand in this city and country?
I mean, maybe a little backstory here. When I started the brand in 2016, the the target demographic for the brand has always been North America and Europe.
Hmm.
So that's why when I started out, there was a lot of like heavy fabrics. Like I use slightly thicker canvas. I made like a chalk coat and all. I use wool. The denim tend to be around like 13, 14 ounces. Because 4 seasons, right? And Singapore is we are a tropical city, heavy, muggy, dense air, moisture in the air. So when I started, like it was for a good number of years. It was just I just FedEx everything out because it was the market has always been North America, places with 4 seasons. It's only during the pandemic that I think I'm not sure which one comes first. It was probably the local press. They interviewed the brand. They interviewed me, and they found out like why are the Americans and the Europeans wearing your brand, but you're still unknown in Singapore. Like, don't you want? I don't have a brick and mortar. Just put it out there first. It was just selling online. Like, are you
Hmm.
not interested to target the local market? I mean, it was a very conscious decision because I find the world is a lot bigger out there, and whatever I
Hmm.
wanted to do, I think it's a lot, people are more receptive in that part of the world. And in Singapore, people always use the excuse of the tropical weather, not being able to wear the
Hmm.
clothes that I make. Uh, but, over the years, I think the brand gained a bit more traction, and especially after those press releases, those interviews that I did locally, people are asking where can they try the clothes, and hence that's why I opened up a small brick and mortar, and to the second place that you actually came in the other time. So I'm now in a nice shop house, a beautiful building. So I think when I'm actually in this physical space, you can actually know who your actual customers are. They come from all
Yeah.
over the world. whether they are they are long time customers or new ones. I think it's what made me have the drive, to know, okay, maybe I don't need to second guess myself for certain things. I get a real feedback, real time feedback, and from people are saying certain things. So it kind of validates what I've been doing for the brand has been doing for 10 years, and I have great partners right now working with me. So that was a huge help, yeah, in propelling the brand a bit forward now. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
have
and
to do everything.
I think that's an important thing to note too. It's like, I know when people go to Tokyo, they'll like seek out to go to like Brass for a pair of boots, or they'll, you know, when you're in, I don't know, New York, you're going to like Standard and Strange, or maybe you're trying to go to Shot to get leather jackets. It's kind of almost these like destination shops in particular cities, and I feel like Curbside gave me that feeling for Singapore. Like I know, there's like a couple Denimhead shops and the armories there, but still, it's like you kind of have the destination there, and like also the neighborhood you're in, super cool, like neat coffee shops and bars and stuff, and neat restaurants. So I felt like you've kind of got this cool destination, and I want part of the reason I want to interview you is like I want anyone who watches this podcast that happens to visit Singapore to go check out your shop, and hopefully maybe also shop online with you. But yeah, it's really something cool and unique.
That's very kind of you, David. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and also the hospitality. Like, I had such a great time hanging out with you guys, and like, getting to know your backstory a bit, and kind of discovering the brand. And it's really cool too to kind of hear your story about, manufacturing in Japan, and kind of how you've had to like build out that workflow, right? So like, you're, I guess you're shipping fabric to Japan, or buying fabric there and then shipping goods back to Singapore. Maybe if you can speak a little bit about kind of like how you've kind of set up your manufacturer to get exactly what you want in your garments.
In the early days, it was a real pain trying to get the Japanese to manufacture the products that we make. Um, I mean, it's like like wooing a person. Like you gotta keep going to them and showing conviction that just to show that you are. Because I started as a one man brand. It's no one's gonna. I don't have any background, or I don't have any backers, or no one's gonna believe this. This guy coming around like I can put a certain amount of money to make production. Like my minimum quantity wasn't that high either at that point of time.
Hmm.
So like I had to keep uh being nice to. I keep flying to Japan. I went to Berlin. I went to Amsterdam just for trade shows and meeting the Japanese folks who were doing all the events there. And then finally, I mean, in 2016, we managed to get our partners in Japan. Um, so it's quite a healthy relationship we have with them over the past 10 years. That being said, the manufacturing cost has been really creeping up quite a fair bit over the past 4 or 5 years in Japan itself. So at this stage, Kerbside Co has been trying to fan out. Let's find places. My Japanese partners have factories in China and Vietnam, so they are trying to steer all the brands. Maybe do it over there because the lead time is not 1 year anymore. We can shorten it to maybe about 8 months, 10 months. I mean, it's a difference of 2 to 4 months, but it's still a huge difference to me, because whatever I design in 2026, at least it might be released in early 2027, or at least not
Hmm.
2028. Yeah, so just moving forward, I think Kerbside and Co have to expand our production facility. We're gonna go more regional facilities, because we found out a couple of good factories around the region that handle
Nice.
quite big names. And I think I'm very grateful for the leads that we have these few years. People directing
Nice.
us. Back then, it was quite a struggle.
Yeah, and that's one thing I was kind of surprised on my visit was like how many countries are so close to Singapore. It's like you have Malaysia, you have Indonesia, you have Philippines. There's just so much in close proximity. So, um, I mean, from a cultural perspective and like the cross pollination, that's super interesting. But I hope, uh, from like a manufacturing standpoint too, that gives you some interesting options. I mean, like I know in America, it's like if you want to make stuff here, it's like you kind of have to go to LA or maybe
Mm.
like New York, and that's kind of really it. There's not really much elsewise. It's like
The
the
option.
manufacturing's in so few places, you know. Um, cool. So maybe speaking a bit more about working with Japan and kind of like the connections you built there. I know you've had some pretty exciting collaborations with Japanese brands. Like I
Right.
saw the really beautiful white trousers you made with El Canek. How has that kind of come together where you've sort of started working with these brands, and how do you build these collaborations?
Yeah, just so in I think in 2017 during one of our yearly trips to Japan for the factory visits, we or not we actually it's just me. I went to Kojima Jean Street. So before
Hmm.
heading into the factory, before heading to the Jean Street, El Connect was they had a store on the main street. So I mean I
Hmm.
popped in. The moment I popped in, I went like, holy crap! They have really nice stuff, and the kind of designs that he had, Kanek-san had, was like it's really very close to what Kerbside and Co is doing.
Hmm.
A bit of a collegiate stuff, nothing too rugged or too hardcore denim aesthetics.
Yeah.
A lot of chinos, a lot some college jackets and stuff, varsity jackets. Yeah, so I made a mental note. I left. I went to Kujin Street, and then everything was a bit too denim centric for me. And then I went back to El Canek and I bought a couple of stuff. Um, we had a very minimal conversation because of the Japanese English. It was kind of
Yeah.
lost in translation there. So, but yeah. So and then in about a couple of years ago, we went to Kurashiki because it was a short hop away from Kojima, um, and we hardly go to Kurashiki when it comes to during doing these factory visits. Usually we end up in Okayama, Kojima. In then we start doing our work, and lo and behold, I found El Kanek in Kurashiki. And I know I went in and I we're trying to have a conversation with him, and he said that he actually remembered me from 2017. So I was
Nice.
like, oh, I was like, he said, yeah, because the difficulty in having, and then this odd guy coming in having trying to have conversation with him, you like and I just after a brief conversation with him, I was like, maybe in the near future, if you're not averse to it, maybe we can do something together. And then his eyes lit up and was like, of course, at a certain point, we had to use Google Translate. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, we exchanged numbers and all this. And, it moved forward very quickly after that. And then it turns out that, he really liked what Kerbside and Co is doing. So we flew into Japan again after we talked about some design perspective on what we wanted to do. Um, and yeah, we released the winter pants made in black satin and denim. The one you saw was the one in ecru black satin.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's like I had I like ecru and kind of like natural denims and things like that, but I had not seen that in like a reverse sateen fabric before. That was super cool, and I
Yeah,
loved that fabric paired with like the painter pockets and stuff. It was a really beautiful garment.
yeah.
wish I had bought some before. I think I saw on your website, but they're all gone now. Yeah, those were really lovely. And I know Denim Wings mentioned they had a pair too and really liked them. So
Yeah.
yeah, they sound like they were a pretty successful collaboration for you.
It was a very nice and pleasant uh, partnership that we had with El Connect.
Yeah, and I think the one thing too, I want to loop back onto the Kojima Jean Street thing, and I think that's one thing that also brings me or like sparked my interest in your brand is that you know I'll call them the denim head brands. They've been around for a long time, and they've kind of got like formulas they stick to, and they just kind of iterate upon that formula. So it's like super slubby denim, this wash, this fabric, that fabric, and they're kind of like not templated, but it's like type 3, type 2, type 1, Lee Ryder. It's like there's almost like these kind of templates that everyone sticks to.
Yeah.
And my denim journey started probably almost like I think maybe like I bought my first pair of raws almost around maybe like 2008, 2009. and I've kind of been a fan of the scene ever since. But I kind of reached a point at some point where I was like, I want more variety. I want more diversity. I want different looks. I don't want just the standard denim head, Red Wing, selvage jeans, white tee every day. Actually, I always wear black tees versus white tees, but same concept. And I really these days dig brands that are bringing in a bit of Ivy League or a bit of tailoring or a bit of kind of like different, like a little British, a little Italian, a little American. I like this idea of the kind of like sprinkling in different spices, so to speak, right? And I look at your brand kind of doing similar things to like Bryceland's, or similar to what else came to mind? Oh man, it'll come back to me. It's someone that leans a bit in the Ivy direction. Um, I forget exactly, but it'll come back to me. But I love this idea that you're kind of, I guess Bryceland's is probably the closest thing I can think of where it's like you're inspired by these heritage and vintage pieces, but you're doing something unique and different. And you want to almost have like a different style that's not tied to these kind of like formulas. And I felt like in Kojima, a lot of the brands kind of were like sticking to the tried and true designs, and I like the innovation. I think that that's something unique and cool about what you do.
Yeah.
Um,
I think there's not. I mean, I think a lot of brands like to do a repros of garments that they really like. I think it's like homage to things that they have an affinity to. Nothing wrong with it. It's just that I think it's kind of a tried and tested formula. So I mean,
yeah,
and I've always thought that like you mentioned, type one, type two, perfectly fine if you want to do a replica of it. It's just that if I want to do a jacket, yeah, sure, I would. I want to have two pockets. The number of times people coming into the store and telling me, "Oh, that's a Type 2 jacket," and I was like, Not really. There's two pockets, but it's not a Type 2 because Type 2 is very specific to me. When you say Type 2, it brings you back to Levi's Type 2, right? It's a
yeah,
very specific cut, a very specific pattern, but just because a jacket have two pockets, it's not really a Type 2 jacket. So
yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
the
yeah,
out there and the education, I mean, I try my best to tell people, there's a certain reason why things are called a certain way. So I think, yeah, uh, no shade to all those brands that do repros, but I think Kerbside and Co, we like to do things our own way.
yeah. And maybe
Like,
kind of go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, you mentioned Bryceland. I think brands like Bryceland's, Double RL, Fortella, Drake's. I think like Brooks Brothers, even like I think these are the brands that we resonate a lot with.
Yeah,
I think we take our references from a lot of American workwear, collegiate, preppy, military influences. The functional, the utilitarian aspect of it, and we just we do it our own way. In every brand has its own take on it. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think
And I
that's
could see a bit of the kind of like take Ivy inspiration of like old Ivy League looks and kind of like vintage Americana. Um, Not vintage American workwear, but like vintage Americana, just a more general sense of like US style from like I'm thinking like JFK and how he used to dress, or famous actors and things like that. Maybe Harrison Ford. I can see a lot of kind of like vintage references, which and cultural references, which I think is really neat for the brand.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, a good reference point there, David. Harrison Ford, Steve McQueen. I mean, these are all the classic. The images that you look back. I mean, and these are the guys I grew up watching the movies. So I mean, I sound like an old guy now, but uh, yeah, I mean, like when they dress, you look like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like I mean, we take reference from all the little bits and pieces that we
yeah.
enjoy looking. Like maybe we can translate that into what the brand needs to be. Yeah.
And maybe kind of deep diving on the brand a bit. So for someone who's discovering Curbside for the first time through this episode, what garments would you draw their attention to? Like what are some of like either your favorites or your best sellers, or just
Mm.
pieces that you're really excited about that you would like people to maybe take a look at?
Well, we started. I mean, Kerbside Co started with denim jeans. So obviously, I think we are strong in our denim game. That being said, we are also not too crazy with like you mentioned earlier, like like the heavy slabs or
Yeah.
certain like heavy ounces denim. Like that's far removed from what I want to do for the brand. Um, uh, we just go with the classic cuts. So things like the high rise white leg stuff I've been doing since 2016 is the Lot 75E jeans. So
Hmm.
that's a classic. I mean, we every year we not really every year, but every year and a half we replenish the same cut again, because it's gaining a lot of traction for the past 2 years. I think because people are starting to realize that, oh, maybe it's a trend thing, or I'm not sure, but everybody's
Yeah.
going higher rise and white leg, and I find it a bit I won't say amusing, but it's pleasing because people are buying the jeans. But what started out for me as offering a classic high rise white leg cut that wasn't really very popular in 2016 has gained a lot of traction for the past 2 years. I can't make enough of it, so I mean, we just restock our Lot 75E, and yeah, I mean it's not available on the website, so currently, but if you want to buy, you can always find a way to email us or DM on Instagram. Yeah, so I mean that's one of our the the garment that we sell really well, and then we also have uh, our denim jackets, the corner and the Mitchell jacket, it's pleated jackets with a cinch buckle at the back. The reason why I think it's a bit popular now is because fabric's not very heavy. I use an 11 ounce, and I did a bio wash on the fabrics, so the
Hmm.
denim feels a bit soft. It feels like a sweatshirt when you wear it. So and it kind of sit very well with the tropical weather here, the mugginess that we face, and
Hmm.
a lot of local folks was like, "Oh my god, finally a jacket that doesn't feel like an armor."
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's interesting you mentioned about the kind of wider jeans. I think what happened was like for a long time people were trying to like get into raw denim, but as a trend. So it's like, oh, I want to wear selvage denim, but I also still want to wear skinny jeans, which are on trend, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it was.
Remember
Let's
the
say 10
pin
years
rolling
ago.
days?
What's that?
You remember when people used to pin roll their jeans with sneakers?
Yeah, yeah, that was huge in London. Like I was like I never saw that much in the States, but like in the UK, that was such a huge style. I saw it a lot in London, but yeah, I think maybe what's happening more recently is folks are realizing that wearing something super wide or something super slim is kind of like a temporary look, whereas like wearing a kind of a regular classic cut is timeless and like you don't have to worry about it going in or out of style. So like I know
Mm-hmm.
me, whenever I buy anything, whether it's a top or bottom, I want it to be like a regular cut, not huge, not slim, just kind of right in the middle. So I know that 10 years, 20 years out, as long as I can fit in it, I could technically still wear it and look good. And so I think maybe that's what the industry is just kind of realizing. It's like, oh, if we buy these timeless fits, we're not going to have to like retire them in 5 years when things change again. We'll kind of be able to keep them for the
For
long
sure,
haul.
for sure, for sure.
Uh, and I was really impressed when I visited with your shirting. Like I remember you had some I think there may be Oxford cloth button down shirts with like an enzyme wash.
Mm-hmm.
Those really stood out to me. And I think also I was looking at the website. I think it's maybe the Clint shirt that I saw with the kind of white stitching on black twill. That was pretty neat too. I think yeah, yeah,
I
it's
think
some
it
pretty
was
cool shirting.
yeah, it was the clean shirt was more of a dark gray. I mean, photography makes it a bit brighter than it is, but it's actually a gray stitching, contrast stitching on a black twill shirt. That's sold out for now anyway. So, yeah. Then the button downs, like the one I'm wearing. This is one of the Oxford cloth button down shirts that we
Hmm.
have. We went through a bio wash, as you mentioned. So I mean, I just wanted to offer something that feels, like right from the get go, it feels a bit worn in. Nothing
Yeah,
too, it feels a bit more comfortable. Uh, that's the thing with Curbside and Co. I try not to do too many of the raw stuff.
yeah,
And it's always typically it's just a one wash to make it
Yeah.
seem comfortable and airy and light. It feels like second skin to you. Yeah.
And I think the industry is going that direction too. Either we're getting older, because like I know I'm definitely getting older, but it's either that or the industry is just going that direction where like people want something that feels nice to wear from day one, rather than something you have to put in 30 wears to eventually get to a place where you can enjoy it. And like
Yeah.
that break in, that kind of like uncomfortableness. It's just kind of like we don't. It's almost like people don't have time for it anymore. They just need it to fit nice from the get go.
I mean, nothing too crazy with the washers. As long as it feels, like feel like a a pair of sweatpants. Like or a sweatshirt comfortable. It feels it hugs your body. It's like, oh my god, it is so nice and fuzzy and warm feeling.
And yeah, yeah, yeah. It's there's like a comfort as like a kind of a adjective I'd use to the brand where it's like when you're in the shop, very comfortable vibe, hang out, like check out the cool artwork, chat with you guys. It felt like it's because a lot of places a lot of times I go into a shop, whether it's a multi-brand retailer or like a single brand shop, I feel this like obligation that like
You need to
I'm
walk out
wasting
with
the
that.
person. Well, kind of. It's like I feel like I'm wasting the person's time if I can't buy something. And like some days I've got extra money in the bank account, and great, I can buy something. Some days I cannot. Um, but I did like that your shop felt welcoming, and I felt like I could kind of like hang out. And I think why that was nice was it enabled me to discover more about the brand and the garments, and not just see the surface level like survey of what you've done, but like the kind of the more nitty gritty details of each of the pieces. And like seeing the pair of really faded jeans that you had on that day, or seeing some of the like older pieces you had around the shop. Like I like that kind of comfort, and I could also see that in the design of
Yeah.
the pieces too. That they're supposed to be nice and comfortable.
I think that's I mean, as you mentioned, when you come into a shop, I mean, one of the ethos of Curbside and Co. I told the Curbside crew here, whenever somebody walks up, we welcome them. There's no encourage them to try the clothes. Don't hawk over them. Don't start shifting the hangers after people start touching stuff. I want people to feel welcome. If you have any questions, you need to ask about the brand, the clothes, the cut, the fit. Just ask along. It's okay. I'll give you a glass of water. You can have a chat. Feel comfortable trying the clothes because I like you mentioned, not everybody bank account at a particular point of time, we have enough funds to buy stuff. We are not the most expensive, but we are not the cheapest either. So
Hmm.
I've always tried to create that, maybe today if you don't feel like buying or you think it's not the right time to purchase anything here, it's okay, just try the clothes, like I'll walk you through it. There's no pressure, I create the aspirational, when you have a bit more you have a bit more access to cash, a bit more money to throw around, you can consider us because you remember the fit, like I don't we never pressure anyone to purchase anything, to walk out the
Yeah,
store with a bag. We are always happy to have a conversation, like how we grow organically, we don't do marketing. This is
yeah,
exactly how
yeah.
your physical store itself, if you remember us for us not being pushy and stuff, we just talk about it. We can shoot the breeze, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe expanding on that a bit. So obviously, it's amazing if one gets the chance to visit Singapore. Like it's such an incredible place. But for people who are interested in your brand and maybe can't make that trip, how do you recommend they keep the pulse on? Because obviously, it sounds like you do kind of smaller batch productions, and you've got a pretty big lead time you're working with. Like, how can they keep the pulse on your new pieces and kind of also like should they want see something they like work with you to order that, like how would you recommend people do that?
I mean, we brought down our website last year, so we just bump it up again online. It's taking a bit more time than anticipated to put the products online. So whatever you see online is actually, I would say, that's like 5% of what we offer in the physical store itself. Our brick and mortar holds almost everything else. And I suppose if anybody's interested in purchasing or have any inquiry about any of our pieces, you can always, if it's not available on the website, just drop me a direct message on Instagram or even email us. I mean, the information is available on the website. It's also available on our social media. There's always a way to connect with us. I'll help you along. The team will, assist you with, like, sizing, size charts, and the fabric, and like, yeah, we want you to make the right choice in purchasing. So, yeah, just ask,
Yeah, and
find
I
a way, find a way. There's always a way.
and I also want to make sure I plug your specific accounts for folks that maybe haven't that don't already follow you. So for Instagram, it's KERBSIDE.co
Dot C.
uh,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
or .co. And then for the website, KERBSIDE-co.com.
that's right.
And I see like you've got your store location, email newsletter. And the one thing I do
Yeah.
like is you actually show some photos of the shop, and also like on your Instagram. I feel like you get like there's a post you did on May 29th where you're wearing like a red kind of like Barracuda style jacket or
Yeah.
Harrington. I forget the exact terminology, and like you really kind of see how cool the
Yeah.
shop is and the kind of
The
personality
vibe
of it,
of
which
this. Yeah. Yeah, that's the coach jacket with the chain stitch at the back with the Sultans of Swing.
oh yeah, I see the black one too. That's super cool.
Yeah, you saw the black one too. Yeah, that's right. There's two versions of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think there is like yeah, it's definitely worth coming to the shop if someone can visit. Like it's a lovely experience in addition to your product.
Yeah, but coming to the store, we are not intimidating at all. I think you can attest to that. Like, we are quite warm, I would think.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it was awesome. Like I had such it was like the highlight of my Singapore trip was hanging out with you guys. It was really a lot of fun. Um, Although I looked silly because I was wearing like t-shirt and like chino short or like safari
uh,
shorts because it was so
you
hot, you know.
you were dressed quite appropriately for the weather. I think the one in the
Yeah,
store, we are a bit more. I mean, I'm vain. I think the staff here also like to dress up, so we kind of, we dress a bit more than the average Singaporean guy. So, if I'm past a certain degree of discomfort, I'm okay to walk out with a jacket out on the road, but nothing too crazy or walking like half an hour in there, like a short jaunt here and there. I'm okay to just whatever I'm wearing in the shop, I just go out for a while.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, for the next like 4 months or so in Texas, it's going to be like 37 Celsius or like 100 Fahrenheit. So I'm
Oh,
kind of getting into that same place where it's like I want to dress nice and look cool, but it's hot and humid.
yeah.
So uh, I can feel like a common challenge of like how can we look cool and be comfortable or and still be comfortable and like navigate hot climates, you know?
It's perpetual summer here, and not only is it hot, it's also muggy, and the moisture in the air, man. I'm telling you, it's
Yeah.
just you sweat right after you shower.
Well, I realized that you guys are like basically right next to the equator, which I had not initially realized like how far south
Yeah,
Singapore is. And when I kind of saw it on the map, I was like, oh yeah, of course it's that hot and humid. It's like
yeah,
you guys are basically equatorial.
we're an island too, so
Yeah, 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 yeah.
the tropical breeze is pretty insane, coming from all corners.
Yeah, well, maybe reflecting a bit on the fact that Curbside's been going for 10 years now, like what I mean, it's kind of a two-part question. First, I like to kind of ask a reflecting question of like what would you like to speak about in terms of like what you've learned or what you've discovered, what you've built? And then maybe a second question after that would be kind of like what's the future for Curbside for like the next 10 years?
Um, I think well, right off the gate, I would say that at some point I didn't realize Curbside I mean, we are 10 years old. Like, I it was a slow slog getting up to that 10 year, a decade of running the brand. Um, at some point, people were thinking like, this brand is probably gonna last 2 3 years, because
Hmm.
being by virtue of me running it alone, and like no one's really knowing it locally, but internationally, I think we have a bit of attraction. I think we did pretty okay. in terms of our reach. It's just that I think during the pandemic, I think it was for some reason the international reach has dropped quite a fair bit. We used
Mhm.
to have stockies over in Ireland, Texas, uh, yeah, and UK as well. So
Mhm.
moving forward, I think for the brand, the goal is to put more of our products in other brick and mortars all over the
Mhm.
world. So I think at least for the next year, 27, I think we're gonna a bit more aggressive in that. Production is gonna be pumped up, so we can afford to put more products overseas, not just locally, because we see a lot of there's a couple of requests, trying to. I mean, they can't get our products overseas if you short of buying direct from the website. Um,
Mhm.
you need to find a way to get our stuff over. So I think one of the best ways is, if any stockists out there willing to talk to the brand, reach out to us and we'll figure out something. Yeah, I want to
Yeah,
kickstart
and
that.
I like the fact that you're able to kind of keep your. It's like it's a scaled brand, but it's still your brand. There's very few of these brands where there's kind of like one person who's like the whole. It's like the whole brand is them in a way, right? So like I think of like Carl and his wife for Rogue Territory, or yourself, or what's another brand like Black Horse Lane in London, like Han's kind of like the one man behind that. And I love seeing these brands where it's like one person or two people have a vision and they kind of like do the whole thing from build the website, talk to customers, man the shop, go in the factory and deal with production. It's really cool to see that level of because I
Yeah,
guess it gets more of your personality into it, right?
yeah. I mean, going back to what you said about the past 10 years, I think I don't know, man. I don't know how I do it. Like it's pretty insane if you think about it. How I managed for at least the first 7 years, because on our seventh year actually, I had partners coming in to help out with the website,
Mhm.
with our marketing collaterals, for internally the store. I I've got I've got great partners that came in to just assist me and lift off a huge part of running a business off my
Mhm.
shoulders, so I can just the branding, the clothing direction, and how the physical store look like, all these at least I have a bit more breathing room
Mhm.
to to do what's more important, rather than running the accounts, which is a different conversation altogether. And stressing over the marketing side of things, the press release and stuff like that. So yeah, running it alone for the first 7 years was, I don't know, I think I should give myself a pat on the shoulders for that. But the past 3 years has been my partners have been a godsend to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, moving forward, I think with all of us putting our heads together, and I think we can scale a bit more. Right? We don't do anything too crazy. We just do small little organic manageable stuff, which is always what I believe Kerbside Co should be doing anyway. We're not like, we don't intend to like scale up like crazy. Like we don't go into the whole viral stuff thing. We just do small
Yeah.
little manageable stuff.
That's more sustainable, right?
Incremental, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like that's more sustainable because if you're small, you have to be really careful where you spend your energy, or a small team, you have to be
Yeah.
careful where you spend your energy and like how you and where you invest, and kind of chasing after trends or chasing after virality and all
I
the
can
hot new
I can
thing.
never do that, man. It's like it's the last thing I want to go.
Yeah, because it's taking away time that you're not designing your next piece, or you're not like
Yeah,
overseeing your next production run,
yeah,
and that
yeah,
really matters.
yeah. I mean, my brain is always thinking 1,001 things, but sometimes putting them into paper. So sometimes my partners kind of sit me down. It's like, you gotta maybe just put it down. write it down so you don't forget whatever you just brilliant idea you just mentioned to me earlier. So, and
I
then
think that's pretty
most of all,
common. I
yeah,
think that's pretty common with like creative entrepreneurs. Like I've met multiple persons who like have like, I've got an idea, I'm going to go do a thing. And I think that's a pretty common personality trait where it's like you have a million amazing ideas and it's like organizing them and turning them into processes is its own job on top of having the ideas,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah. And
So you're
don't
definitely not
forget,
alone.
yeah, we even for shipping, I'm the guy doing the packing and everything. It's
Yeah.
like if people see the social media side. Sometimes I try to share what I do. Like it's not all just it's not just wearing nice clothes. Like there's some really painful lessons along the way. There's nothing's it's not a bed of roses for the past decade or so. There's I mean we spend a lot of money unnecessarily. Like for every one right thing you do, there's possibly two two lessons you learn. That's not so. From unsavory encounters and stuff.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting. I recently completed like the design and sewing of my own first shirt. Like someday I hope to do a brand, but yeah, it's like just developing that one pattern and like getting it all to the place I want, like doing the samples, tweaking it, sewing it again, and kind of finalizing the garment. I'm like, I made my shirt, and I'm like, oh shoot, now I got to like do the grading for the medium and the small and the XL and the double XL, and like, how am I gonna solve that problem? And then now I gotta find a
Welcome to
factory
my
and just
world.
yeah,
Just
I
one piece
guess
of garment, right? Yeah,
yeah, that's just one shirt. I'm guessing like
yeah,
you start to get some economies of scale where it's like, okay, I've made this shirt before. I'm just going to tweak it a little bit and like iterate upon it. So I guess you can kind of, or like this shirt can use that shirt's block. This new shirt number two can use shirt number one's block and adjust it a bit. And so like, I see how you can kind of like build upon that foundation, but those big foundations are like so much effort goes into those. And
yeah.
it's almost like, yeah, I can just see how it's like this to start a brand, like effort wise.
I mean,
Um,
sometimes you can use a winning formula. Like if this thing work, you use a template for that, and then you build upon it, or you improve certain aspects of it to make it different. But sometimes when you want to do something totally different, the sampling process takes up a bit more time. It costs a lot more money. You gotta do a lot of a few iterations of it, and yeah, the back and forth is not going to be cheap either. So,
yeah.
and it's been proven a lot of times that whatever samples I make, for again, it's probably like for every three samples of different designs that I make, it's probably one is gonna come out, and the other two, like nah, maybe I'll shelve it for a while. Maybe we do it the next
Hmm.
year or so. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess right time, right place, and you got to be feeling the design. And
Hmm.
maybe when you come back to a year later, you tweak something, and then it's perfect, even if it maybe wasn't perfect when you first came up with it. And
And then you got to
I guess
work your
they're like
budget.
children. Yeah, 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 yeah. I think this has been super cool, and I think this is going to be a great episode. I hope folks enjoy it. And
For
again,
sure, I
thank
hope
you
so.
for all the time to like, I know this is a long planning process to get us on this call, but I'm glad to have you here and
No
super
worries,
glad to be
we
able to
did it
interview.
right in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
end.
exactly, exactly. We got
Yeah.
there. Um,
Thank you for
cool.
having me, David. It's my first time doing this anyway. Doing usually it's just print or online stuff, but yeah. Thank you.
I'm super excited to get this published, and I'm super glad that I had the chance to discover Curbside and discover your brand, Fahmy, and appreciate your hospitality, and also thank you so much for coming on this episode. I really am glad to have you here.
Thank you from everyone at Kerbside and Co. Thank you for having us on your podcast, and yeah, I hope to see you in Singapore again, or maybe Texas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you travel over to the States for more US stockists, like let me know. It'd be cool to connect again. And I'd love to come back to Singapore. That the food was just awesome, awesome, awesome. It's such a good
Indeed,
culinary scene.
yeah, I agree.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Sons of Selvedge podcast with our guest Fahmy of Kerbside and Co. If you haven't already, please jump over to curbside.co on Instagram and give the brand a follow. Check out the website at curbside-co.com. And please like and subscribe to this content. And thanks everybody for listening.
Cheers.